Greetings, fellow Dungeon Delvers, and welcome to DORAN'S and Dragons, where we work together to come up with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition builds for your favorite League of Legends champions. Today we're building Kaisa, Daughter of the Void. When she was 10, Kaisa's village was swallowed by a void tunnel, and after several days, she was the only survivor left. She was attacked one day while foraging for food by a voidling. She managed to slay the creature, but it had already embedded itself in her arm. The creature was dead, but its body formed a symbiotic link with Kaisa, and grew with her as she spent years in the tunnels slaughtering the void and keeping the villages of Shurima safe from them. Before we get started with the build, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when we release our builds. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate you all for watching, and of course our patrons over on Patreon. Speaking of which, we'd like to thank one of this month's DORAN'S Blade members, Remote List. DORAN'S Blade patrons get to choose one guaranteed champion for us to build, and Remote List chose Kaisa. Alright, now let's get into it. First, let's cover the goals of this build. Kaisa gained her armor and abilities from a symbiotic link to the void via the body of a slain voidling. She's also a survivor. Traversing the void tunnels all these years has taught her much in the way of fighting and staying alive. Finally, we need to be able to empower our abilities as we grow. For race, we're going to go with Variant Human. I know, herder Variant Human, but you can't argue with the free feat. You could go Fallen Aasimar if you flavor the darkness as the void instead. Variant Humans get a +1 point to 2 abilities. We'll take Charisma and Dexterity. We also get a skill proficiency. We'll take Stealth to be sneaky beaky-like in the tunnels. Speaking of tunnels, they're essentially long, horrible dungeons, so we'll take the Dungeon Delver with our free feat. This gives a bunch of features to increase your detection of the horrible things you encounter, like advantage on checks to secret doors, advantage on all trap saves, resistance to all trap damage, and when you're on the run, you don't take the -5 penalty to your passive perception. For background, we're going to take Outlander. She literally has lived underground in the void tunnels for half her life at this point. It doesn't get much more outlandish than that. We get skill proficiencies in athletics and survival, and then there's the Wanderer feature, which gives you an eidetic memory of maps and geography. Basically, if you've entered an area or read a map about it, you can navigate your way through it and remember even the minute details. For stats, we're gonna let you roll. Haha, just kidding. I have standard array tattooed on me for a reason, and that reason is I lost a bet. But that's a story for another time. On the real, roll if you want to, but we need at least a 13 in Charisma for multi-classing purposes. Charisma is gonna be kicking us off here at a 15. Kaisa's an attacker, but her symbiosis gives her quite the presence. We'll take our Dexterity next. Agility and quick thinking are crucial in the tunnels. Without her quick wits, she'd be long dead, even with her armor. Next, we'll pick up some Constitution. Surviving in a very harsh environment has given her a higher than average stamina and resistance to potentially poisonous things. We'll take our Wisdom next, as this goes hand in hand with her survival aspects. Intelligence will be our average score. She's not going to write War and Peace, but she isn't going to scribble with markers on the wall either. And finally, we'll dump our Strength. She's empowered by her Void Second Skin. She doesn't need to hit the gym. Alright, well since we don't need any special equipment, let's start off with a class breakdown. Kaisa has formed a symbiotic pact with an empowered piece of Void armor. Sounds like a Hexblade Warlock to me. Warlocks have a D8 hit die, so you're going to be relatively healthy, especially with the extra Constitution we picked up earlier. Hexblades have proficiency with light and medium armor, all weapons, and shields as well. You also get 2 skill proficiencies, so we'll pick up Intimidation and Nature. Hex Warrior gives you the additional proficiencies we referred to earlier, and lets you choose a weapon to imbue with your power. That weapon could use your Charisma mod for attack and damage rolls rather than Strength or Dex. Hexblade's Curse is the final patron feature we get at this level. This feature, along with Hexblade's Curse and Sign of Ill Omen, are going to function as our passive, because it's going to enable us to do additional damage, and lets us charge to our targets like our ultimate, Killer Instinct. So what does it actually do? Against the Curse target, you get the following bonuses. You get to add your proficiency bonus to all damage rolls, your crit range increases to 19 and 20, and finally, if the Curse target dies, you get the Triumph rune in the form of healing yourself your Warlock level plus your Charisma mod. By the way, this all recharges on a short rest, and later on, you'll be able to pass this thing on to others after they die. Our final level 1 feature is going to be our Pact magic. Warlocks are very interesting casters. They have very few spell slots, but as a result, every spell they cast is at the max level available, and they also recharge on a short rest. As always, we're only going to cover the Kaisa specific spells and cantrips. Eldritch Blast is the reason we're not going to need any weapons in this build. These blasts are going to be Kai'Sa's auto attacks, and can also be her Icathian Rain at later levels. You make a ranged spell attack, and on a hit, it deals 1d10 force damage. Very important, because force damage is the least resisted damage type in the game. Like we mentioned earlier, Hex is another spell we're going to be using as our passive. The spell lets you curse the target, making it take an extra 1d6 necrotic from all your attacks. Keep in mind, each Eldritch Blast Beam is an individual attack, and you can see how combining this with Hexblade's Curse can really ramp up your damage. It also lets you choose an ability check to force disadvantage on. Something important to remember is this doesn't refer to saving throws, those are separate checks. I like to use this to hex an enemy's strength so our brawlers have an easier time grappling, or you could even use it in RP situations to give yourself advantage on intimidation checks and the like. The final spell we'll talk about this level is Shield, which is given by being a Hexblade Warlock. Shield lets you spend your reaction to bump your AC by 5 until the start of your next turn, which can be flavored as the summoner spell Barrier. Second level Warlocks only get one feature, but it's a biggie: Eldritch Invocations. These are powerful abilities that are designed to enhance you and make up for your abysmal number of Pact slots. We're going to pick 2 now, and we gain one every few levels. Agonizing Blast amplifies our Eldritch Blast autos by letting us add our Charisma mod to each bolt of damage. This scales up quickly when you see how many bolts we have at level 20. We'll also get the armor portion of our second skin with Armor of Shadows. This lets you cast mage armor on yourself at will without burning a spell slot. Level 3 Warlocks gain their Pact boon. This is something your patron would give you for being a good servant. Kai'Sa doesn't have any choices here that particularly makes sense since we're not using weapons, and none of the cantrips from other classes are really relevant here. That being said, I would take Pact of the Chain. This lets you use the Find Familiar spell and use it as a ritual. You could ever summon an imp reflavored as a little loyal voidling. I think that'd be a really fun role-playing option. You also get second level spells. Feel free to choose Invisibility here to pick up that bit of your upgraded Supercharge ability. The spell is really straightforward. You touch a creature and it becomes invisible until it attacks or casts a spell. We'll get an upgraded version of this later, but this'll do for now. Fourth level Warlocks gain an ability score improvement. We're going to forgo the ASI and grab a feat instead. The alert feat is perfect considering how Kai'Sa's had to be constantly aware of her surroundings and always be on her toes. You get a +5 to your initiative rolls, you can't be surprised, and you negate the unseen attacker's advantage. Level 5 Warlocks get another Eldritch Invocation. We'll take the Sign of Ill Omen we referenced earlier. This lets you cast Bestow Curse once per long rest. The spell is very, very strong. You touch a target, and if it doesn't succeed on a wisdom check, it's cursed. You get to choose from the following options on how that curse plays out. You can give disadvantage on all checks and saving throws with one ability. All attacks made against you are made with disadvantage. This one's particularly potent. The target has to make a wisdom save at the start of each of its turns. If it fails, the turn is wasted. And finally, the improved Hex option, with your attacks and spells dealing an extra d8 of necrotic damage. Importantly, if you cast this spell with a 5th or higher level spell slot, it does not require concentration like your Hex spell. So we'll be able to stack Hex, Hexblade's Curse, and Bestow Curse on one target. 6th level Hexblades get the Accursed Spectre feature, which lets you bind the soul of a humanoid you kill. It uses the Spectre stat block and assists you in combat. This can be used once per long rest. Not very Kai'Sa related, but still cool to have some extra cannon fodder. Level 7 Warlocks get another Eldritch Invocation. We're going to pick up our Killer Instinct with Relentless Hex. This lets us use a bonus action to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of a target we have afflicted with either Hex, Bestow Curse, or our Hexblade's Curse. Alright, now that we've gotten most of our abilities, it's time to swap over to Sorcerer to pick up the rest and get our living weapon upgrades. Sorcerers have a d6 hit die, so we're taking a minor hit in our survivability for these few levels, and the bums give us no new proficiencies when we multi-class. We do get a Sorceress Origin though. We're gonna go with Shadow Magic because, to be frank, none of them really line up well, and we're here mainly for Meta Magic and Haste. We do get a few features for this though, including Eyes of the Dark, which grants us Dark Vision up to 120 feet, and Strength of the Grave, which gives us a little GA effect. When we're dropped to 0, we can make a Charisma save equal to 5 plus the damage taken. If we make it, we're dropped to 1 instead. This recharges on a long rest, but can't be used when the damage is radiant or from a critical strike. We also get access to a new list of spells. For level 1, we'll pick up the more accurate version of our Icathian Rain with Magic Missile. Magic Missile lets you fire 3 darts at a target that guarantee a hit and deal 1d4 plus 1 force damage. Each spell slot above level 1 grants you an additional dart. Second level sorcerers gain their Font of Magic. This unlocks our sorcery points, which we're going to be able to use to empower our Icathian Rain next level. Sorcery points can be used in 2 ways, either to empower your spells or convert to spell slots. This goes both ways though. You can also convert spell slots into more sorcery points if you want to. Level 3 sorcerers get meta magic. Cue the air horns! These let us weaponize our sorcery points to empower our spells. We get 2 options here. First, we'll get our upgraded Icathian Rain with Quickened Spell. This lets you spend 2 sorcery points to change the casting time of a spell to 1 bonus action instead. So to use our empowered Icathian Rain, first we need to cast Magic Missile with a Pact slot, then Quicken and Eldritch Blast. That'll only give us 7 missiles for now, but at max level we'll have 11. The other option we'll take here is Heightened Spell. This lets you spend 3 sorcery points to force disadvantage on any spell that requires a save. This will help make our Bestow Curse land more easily. You also upgrade your Eyes of the Dark ability to let you cast Darkness for 2 sorcery points. When cast this way, you can see in it, and if your target cannot, you gain advantage on all of your Eldritch Blast bolts. 4th level sorcerers get an ability score improvement. We'll bump our Charisma 2 points here for more potent damage and tougher spell saves. Level 5 sorcerers learn level 3 spells. The important one here is Haste for our Supercharge ability. Haste grants you several benefits, including +2 to AC, advantage on dex saves, and an additional action on each turn. You can use this action to make a single weapon attack, dash, disengage, hide, or use an object. For Supercharge, you'll probably mainly be using this to dash or disengage since we don't use weapons in this build. And we're back to Warlock. 8th level Warlocks get an ability score improvement. We'll max out our Charisma this time with 2 more points. Level 9 Warlocks gain another Eldritch Invocation. Kaisa's suit enhances our vision, so we'll take Devil's Sight here, which lets us see normally in darkness, both magical and non-magical, for 120 feet. 10th level Hexblades gain the Armor of Hexes feature. If your Hexblade's curse target hits you, you can burn your reaction to roll a d6. On a 4 or higher, the attack misses regardless of roll. This even works on critical strikes. It's OP, but it only works on 1 attack per reaction, so keep it in mind. Level 11 Warlocks gain a Mystic Arcanum, which is basically a single cast per long rest per X level spell. At level 11, that spell level is 6. We'll use this for True Seeing, which gives us True Sight for the duration of the spell as an addition to our Devil's Sight. 12th level Warlocks gain the final ability score improvement in this build. As always, we'll use it to round off our odd scores, so we'll put a point in Constitution and Dex. You also get another Eldritch Invocation. We'll take Trickster's Escape for a nice little QSS ability. It lets you cast the Freedom of Movement on yourself once per long rest without a spell slot. Level 13 gives us another Mystic Arcanum for the 7th level this time. None of these are very Kaisa relevant, but Force Gauge is broken, so grab it anyways. This lets you create an immobile, invisible prison. A creature caught in the cage can't leave it by non-magical means. It can try to teleport out, but it has to make a Charisma save or be zapped back into the cage. 14th level Hexblades get Master of Hexes. Whenever you slay a target afflicted by your Hexblade's curse, you can spend a bonus action to reapply it to another creature within 30 feet, so you can give the hurt to everyone. Level 15 Warlocks gain another Mystic Arcanum for 8th level spells this time. Another case of none being Kaisa specific, but I'd take Power Word Stun. This lets you target a creature and speak a word of power. If it's under 150 HP, it's stunned. No save. At the end of each turn, it can attempt to make the save. And finally, we get our final Eldritch Invocation. We'll take Shroud of Shadow, which lets us cast invisibility at will, with no spell slot requirements, which is the best version of our empowered supercharge. Alright, now that we've completed the build, let's see how we did. First, the good. Holy spell damage, Batman. With Hex, Hexblade's Curse, and Bestow Curse, and Quickening Eldritch Blast, we can do a spectacular amount of damage. We also have a ton of survivability and survival traits. And let's be honest, Sorlocks are very, very strong. Now the bad. I wish we had better options for our Sorceress Origin and our Patron because they're not the best thematic fit, but we've done the best with what we had. We don't have the best utility when it comes to crowd control and zoning abilities either. Finally, we're fairly squishy. 16 AC unless we're hasted and only around 140 HP. So what'd you think? I've included a link to this build via D&D Beyond in the description below, as well as Amazon affiliate links to the books used in the build. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We have a few awesome rewards, including access to our Discord community and a guaranteed champion build. We plan on churning out one League champion build every week. Thanks for watching, and we'll hopefully catch you on the Rift, or in the Forgotten Realms.